Okay, we're good now. Doesn't it figure? Right at 3:30 is when my computer was being stupid with its internet connection. So hey, I saw a few of you popping on when I posted that quick minute intro and then my internet crapped out. So as you're popping on again, this will be the full video, knock on wood. Hello, happy Wednesday. Let's chat about balancing your hormones. As you're popping in live, say hello. Hi, Margie. Say hello. Let me know that you're here and we'll get started. Excited that you're here. I'm excited that it's been a minute since we've had a discussion. What's up, Casey? Throw me a like. Tell me hello. Chat with me. Because I like to make these as interactive as possible. So of course, say hello. If you're watching the replay, still say hello. Put it in the comments. Tell me you're watching on the replay. And I'm excited to have this discussion with you guys today. Especially because this is a topic that I hear a lot about, and a topic that I've done a lot of research about, and a lot of things infuriate me when I talk about balancing your hormones. And we'll get into it. Hey Brandy, what's up? Yeah, we're here now. For some reason my internet just decided to crap out right at 3:30, so we're here. No worries, it happens. The curse from working from home. Hi Becky. Becky's gonna be at my house tomorrow. She's coming from Indianapolis. I'm super excited. So it is like the first week of summer. My kids are outside doing a lemonade stand. They're out there hustling for some money. They've made like $33 so far. I'm super proud of them. We've got 3 or 4 other kids from the neighborhood out there on the lemonade stand. What's going on in your world? Tell me what summer looks like for you guys. Is it any different? Is it very different? I know I've got some moms watching. I typically do, hi Ashley. I do typically do these on Fridays because that's when I feel like it's a very good time in my schedule. This Friday I will be busy with my friends going to the City Museum. Hi Sheree. So today we're talking about, what's up Sally? We're talking about balancing your hormones, and you've probably heard that term everywhere, right? You've probably heard it in different health influencers, social media. You've probably seen it on marketing material. You've seen it on, you're reading about intermittent fasting. Yes, I have lots of thoughts about that, Cherie. I will certainly direct you to a post I made about that, as well as another discussion we did about that. I will tag you in one of those after this is done. So you tell me, what do you guys know about balancing your hormones? What does that mean to you? Put that in the comments. Because I see that a lot on claims. I see that a lot on like infographics on Instagram. I see that a lot on even people's like who they help bio. Like when it comes to, I help people balance their hormones. I help people balance their hormones with this. So what do you know about that? Put that in the comments. Hi Faye. How are you, Faye? Balancing hormones in your intermittent fasting book. So what do you know about it, guys? What do you think is balancing your hormones? What does that actually mean? Just curious what you guys know about it and what your thoughts are on about it. So of course we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about, in particular, since we're all women here, we're going to talk about how it pertains to women and their hormones and our hormones, and the things that you need to know are involved with estrogen, progesterone, your thyroid hormones, cortisol, and those are the big players. And we'll talk about, and insulin. We'll talk a little bit about some physiology so you can understand what it means when somebody says you need to balance your hormones, or this will balance your hormones. Now, naturally, we know that when we age, our hormones are going to start to fluctuate. That, unfortunately or fortunately, is a part of life. And that is certainly something that's going to be, I like to think about it as distinguishing you from a teenager, distinguishing you from a 20-year-old, distinguishing you from somebody in a different age bracket as you. Because let's think about it physiologically. Physiologically, we don't want to have somebody reproducing with somebody that maybe isn't as fertile and they're middle-aged. And so your hormones are responsible for those changes in your body, okay? So when it comes to it, estrogen is your biggest player. Estrogen is that hormone that we all know is responsible for female characteristics. It's responsible for your menstrual cycle. It's responsible for removing your menstrual cycle and no longer being fertile and able to create life, to bear a child. But also estrogen is also involved in tons of different other things. Estrogen is also involved in your fat distribution. It's also involved in your energy production. It's also involved in your metabolism. Certainly, that's a thing. So Cherie says her hormones are going crazy starting in their 40s. So what does that really mean? People will blame their hormones for lots of things. Hormones for, skin breaking out, for being anxious and sad and depressed. My hormones are going crazy. What does that really mean? And do we understand what that means? And so we're going to talk about that. So first we're talking about estrogen. Estrogen is that big player, the one that is responsible for all of your female characteristics, but it's also the culprit that when it starts to fade and fluctuate is when you're going to start to see changes in your body. If you've already been through this and you already know what I'm talking about, you'll start to see, changes in your mood, changes in your body composition. You'll start to see changes in your weight. You'll likely blame your metabolism for your changes in your body weight because of your hormones changing. And to be honest, I cited a study a couple of times ago in one of my some of my social media posts about how some researchers studied a vast majority of people, and that it's thought that metabolism doesn't change over the lifespan until you're about 60, is when your metabolism somewhat does start to go down. Low estrogen equals weight gain. We'll talk about that. So for sure, that has been studied. The only thing that I have a criticism about that study is they didn't necessarily tease out for the women in that study that were a part of their middle age and if they were on hormone replacement therapy. And we'll talk about why that's important. So, estrogen. When it comes to your metabolism, estrogen is all about influencing your insulin sensitivity. So what does that really mean? Insulin influences whether or not you're going to be, is different than causes you to be sensitive to insulin. So let's just remind yourself about these terms. When I'm talking about your hormones, there's a lot of influence, there's a lot of things that play into part, and it's not just a one thing causes another, then causes another. It's not direct causation. It's like so many things come to the center that influence a certain aspect of your physiology. So let's remember that when I'm talking about hormones. So when it comes to insulin sensitivity, when you have estrogen around in your midlife, in your teenage years, and estrogen is very prevalent, it's not fluctuating and starting to fizzle out. Estrogen causes you to be influences you to be sensitive to insulin. So what does that really mean? Okay. When you're sensitive to insulin, that means when you have a meal and your blood sugar goes from minimal to lots, once you've had a meal, your insulin takes that blood sugar into your muscles and uses that blood sugar for fuel or storage. If you are not sensitive to insulin, it's going to go pretty much to storage. Okay, and that's why we can see this in type 2 diabetes. People are no longer sensitive to insulin, and you see them storing fat, and you see them having issues with their weight. Okay, so when you have normal levels or therapeutic levels of estrogen, it's supporting your insulin sensitivity. When estrogen is starting to fluctuate and starting to decrease, your insulin sensitivity isn't as great, and sometimes it can start to lead to more storage of fat. Okay, so that's what's happening with metabolic influence of estrogen. When you start to lose estrogen in your in your mid 40s, when you start to experience perimenopause or even full-blown menopause, you'll start to see the impact of that. Estrogen is also important for your distribution of fat. So women are naturally have more adipose tissue because we bear children, and that's something it's something that's needed for excess storage of energy. So when your pregnant woman needs that excess storage to create the baby, it relies on excess fat. Men can be can be more lean and still be healthy. Women should not be super lean because of that nature. When estrogen starts to fade, well, typically estrogen puts your adipose tissue and extra energy stores in the pear shape. So in your hips, in your backside, and all of those areas. When you start to see fluctuations of your estrogen, it starts to put it into your visceral storage. So you might start to feel it in the front of your stomach. And that's what they call menopause belly. And unfortunately, it's something that you really can't prevent. Your body is naturally going to start to go through removal of estrogen and starting to put you through menopause. If you've already done so, you've probably experienced this. And that is just the case of what estrogen does to your body. So estrogen also will influence your appetite. We also know that estrogen will affect your hormones for hunger and satiety. Your hunger signal is your ghrelin. So it's ghrelin, that's the hormone that's released when you're hungry. And leptin is the hormone that's released when you're full, okay? So estrogen will suppress ghrelin. So estrogen will somewhat suppress it. It will influence it negatively, let's put it that way. And it will inhibit, or it will produce leptin. When you start to remove estrogen, that inhibition on ghrelin production starts to go away, and you might become hungrier. So you can see that estrogen certainly does play a role when it comes to your metabolism, your hunger cues, your body composition. And when you start to remove estrogen in your later life, in midlife, and it starts to fluctuate and starts to diminish, you are going to see some of these changes in your body, and that's a natural thing, okay? Progesterone is another hormone that we want to chat about quickly. And of course, I don't want to be throwing science at you. I want to talk real things to you about this situation and how you can manage it and how you can prevent, the changes that you might be seeing. Okay. Progesterone has a similar effect than estrogen. Similar effect when it comes to metabolism, insulin sensitivity, when it comes to energy production. The one thing about progesterone, it starts to fluctuate as well. When you're going through perimenopause and menopause, it starts to fluctuate and you likely will start to see fluid retention. So when your progesterone goes crazy and you feel like you're bloated, that likely is due to sort of different changes that are happening in your progesterone. Okay, that's important to know. Same with testosterone. Testosterone is somewhat plays a role for women. Testosterone is involved in muscle maintenance, muscle production. If you have low testosterone, sometimes you'll start to notice mood changes, libido changes. And again, that is a natural part of aging, is that your hormones are going to start to fluctuate, unfortunately. And it's going to cause real things. Like, you're going to feel real symptoms if you haven't already, or if you have been through it. And if you're experiencing it now, like, tell me. I will tell you, I experienced things with low testosterone. I've had a whole lot of low libido. I've had, memory loss. I've had really big fatigue. And my doctor ran a hormone panel, and she was like, yeah, lo and behold, you're really low on testosterone. She's like, you're really active and you just must not be keeping up with your production of your testosterone. And let's talk about why. So you probably have heard the term balancing your hormones. We've kind of already talked about that. I've kind of covered the physiology on how your hormones can play a role in your metabolism, how it can play a role in your body composition. Like, yeah, Sherry says yes to all of that. Like, it is totally normal, but yet at the same time, your symptoms should be addressed. Like, I went to my OB and was like, look, I need you to figure out what's going on with me. Like, please do a hormone panel. Even if you're on long-term birth control, like, you might have an IUD, you might have, hormones that you take for birth control reasons. It's still worth investigating where you're at in that lifestyle and that lifespan, if your hormones are starting to change, because then you can have a real action plan on how to fix it. Because let's be real, you cannot balance your hormones without true hormone replacement therapy. Hormone replacement therapy is actually really therapeutic and actually really effective. It gets a bad rap because there was a really poor study done that correlated your hormone therapy with increased chance of breast cancer. Whether or not your doctor believes that or uses that as a reason not to put women on hormone therapy is a different story. So I go to a doctor who is a firm advocate for hormone replacement therapy for those that need it and those that could benefit from it. So it's all about weighing your risks. Of course, that's nothing that I can talk to you about, but it's something that I can encourage you to go and have a discussion with your doctor, because I've seen firsthand the effects that I've been experiencing with some replacements that I'm taking. So I'll be honest with you, I'm taking testosterone because I was low in testosterone. So I'm starting to notice changes in my fatigue. I'm starting to notice changes in my brain fog, positive changes. So the only way you can truly balance your hormones is through hormone replacement therapy. Has anybody had experience with hormone replacement therapy? I have an acquaintance. Please put it in the comments. You said you were too young. Is it back? Okay, I think it's back. Sorry if you heard me yelling. Find another doctor. For sure, find another doctor. Because there are doctors out there that will take you seriously when it comes to symptoms. Like if you are experiencing these big, bold symptoms that you were for menopause, like hot flashes, mood swings, anxiety, you don't feel like yourself, like seriously, find a doctor that will support you. And I promise you, if you find that right physician that will help you with hormone replacement therapy, it is something that would probably change how you feel. For sure. I have an acquaintance friend who was struggling to lose weight, and she went on hormone replacement therapy, and just like that, she lost 25 pounds. Now, hear me when I say this. There is a very beautifully done study that studied whether or not hormone replacement therapy will support weight loss in the absence of weight loss when you've tried everything else. It does not necessarily support, once you get yourself on hormone replacement therapy, that you'll lose weight. That's not what I'm saying. But it could support your weight loss. So let's talk about what it does mean for practical advice. So likely, you can't control whether or not your hormones are fluctuating in a certain way, but you can support your hormones. So if you're not consuming adequate enough amounts of protein, adequate enough amounts of energy, you may not just have the building blocks for your hormone production. So keep that in mind. You may or may not have the most adequate amounts of minerals to support the enzymes that it takes to support hormone production. So remember that. Is hormone replacement therapy something you can always continue to do? No. So it would be something that you would be on for however long your doctor sees fit, right? Something that I was told when I started to be on testosterone was like, this will be a long-term thing, but also we have to reevaluate, the risk and benefits to see how long it's going to take to start to feel better. Because let's remember, when you're going through perimenopause and menopause, it's a long amount of time. For most people, they start to feel the effects of perimenopause around 35. And then typically the average woman in the US will go through menopause in their mid-50s. And then once you finally have your last menstrual cycle, you are postmenopausal, and then things start to clear up. So you wouldn't need to do it for the foreseeable future, obviously, because you're not going to be, you don't want to be that fertile person, you know what I mean? Like you want to create that natural aging process. And that's something that we're all going to go through. So of course you're not going to do this forever. So yeah, when it comes to supporting your hormones, that's a better term. Let's call it supporting your hormones with food. Because if you're not eating the right amount of protein, you're not gonna create the right amount of hormones. If you're not eating the right amount of fats and the right kinds of fats, most hormones are fat-soluble hormones. So if you don't have that fat intake in your body, then you're not going to see those right amount of, or at least it's not going to support the amount of production that your body sees fit. Let's put it that way, okay? Same with fiber. So let's talk about fiber. Fiber is one of those nutrients that if you're missing, you may or may not even notice it, but once you start to put it back in your diet and start to make it a priority, you will start to feel and see things that will feel much better. So let's go back to insulin. I talked about insulin earlier, where, say for example, you have a meal, your blood sugar spikes, your insulin is responsible for pulling all of those blood sugar molecules into your muscles for use or storage. Now imagine you have a meal that's fibrous. Okay, that meal that's fibrous is going to slow that release of blood sugar into your system. And what that's going to do is going to keep your blood sugars kind of slowly lifting and then slowly lowering. On the other hand, if you have something that's less fibrous, your blood sugar is going to spike, insulin's going to grab it, it's going to pull it back in, and you're going to crash. That's not going to help you when it comes to sustainable feelings of fullness and prevent you from eating past fullness, okay? And that's important because if you have fiber, your insulin sensitivity is going to remain consistent versus if you consistently have foods without lots of fiber. I don't want to say you're going to abuse your insulin, but you might. Think about the classic type 2 diabetic. So the classic type 2 diabetic is somebody that probably eats highly processed foods, minimal fruits and vegetables, somebody that has not taken their nutrition to places that they really should. They're probably eating lots of convenience foods. They're probably eating lots of fast foods, eating out quite a bit. And those people, that sounds really, really exclusive. I feel like I'm attacking them. So I'm gonna choose my words differently. Folks that have that condition likely have been abusing their insulin. So when they get these big blood sugar spikes, insulin's like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. I don't have enough capacity to pull this all in. They start to shift it to storage. And then as soon as this prolongs and this experience prolongs with their insulin is finally like, oh, I'm so worn out, I can't do this anymore. That being said, as long as we consider our fiber intake will continue to support our insulin sensitivity. I cannot emphasize that enough. Like if you are like, oh my God, Julie, you're throwing so much at me right now. Bottom line, if you are prioritizing your protein, whatever that looks like for you, that might mean 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight, which is a great recommendation. So if you know your body weight, cut it in half. That will be a good place to start in terms of grams per protein. But if you're more active like me and you work out consistently, you might even go up to 2 grams of protein per gram of body weight or kilogram of body weight. I'm shooting for 180 grams a day, which is a lot. So number 1, prioritize protein. Number 2, prioritize your fiber. Because we can't balance our hormones because our body is that master puppeteer when it comes to your hormones, but you can support the things that you do. You can support your hormones with the things that you do. So the foods that you eat, a lot of protein, adequate amounts of fiber, adequate amounts of fat, the good types of fat. So of course the good types of fat are the things that are soluble at room temperature. So we're talking the oils, we're talking, I don't know, what are your good fats? Avocados, granted those are not liquid at room temperature. It's a great fat though. What else, guys? I have my notes over here, so I just want to make sure I've covered everything. That's a lot of talking and not a lot of comments from y'all. What can I clarify? What kind of questions do you have? I've been chatting for about 30 minutes. I know there's a few of you watching right now, so just let me know. What else can I talk to you guys about? Here comes Corinne. You want to say hi? Yeah. Are your kids at home? Those of you that have kids? Young kids like mine? How much money did you make?
46.
46? Total? Wow. They want to buy a slip and slide. Is that enough to buy a slip and slide?
40.
Ooh. You want to spend your $40 on a slip and slide? Anyways. Questions, comments. What can I clarify for you guys? Hi, Carrie L. I saw you tuned in. We're kind of like closing up the conversation about like how I just went through all of this different physiology. And let me tell you, it was kind of like when I was researching for this one, or at least consolidating all my thoughts about like what I wanted to talk to you guys about. It was like going through human metabolism all over again. I wonder if I have my book around here. Oh, I sure do. Advanced Human Metabolism. How much fiber do you recommend in a day? 30 grams. About 30 grams. Which isn't hard to do. Let's talk about how you, like, realistically get 30 grams of fiber in a day. So for me, fiber is vegetables. So we're looking for like your leafy greens. We're looking for those like broccoli, asparagus. And then for me, I do fiber fortified foods. So for me, I love those Mission Balance carb balance tortillas. They have an insane amount of fiber in them, but they're so good. Blood sugar mastery. What do you mean by that, Cariel? Blood sugar mastery is one of those things that, like, if we could all be cognizant of what this is doing to your blood sugar, we would be better off. I'm considering buying one of those constant glucose monitors just to kind of do an experiment for myself for a week, just to see what kind of foods will drastically influence my blood sugar. And I've kind of explained why. Like, we explained why it can be really bad to let your blood sugar spike and lower really quickly, because that leads to that really big crash feeling that we don't really want. And we would prefer, our bodies would prefer this homeostasis of consistent blood sugar, so your body knows it has adequate blood sugar that it can pull from as it needs to. Yeah. And so blood sugar mastery really does come from understanding the foods that you're eating and how it influences your blood sugar. A piece of white bread is going to have a huge impact on your blood sugar eaten on an empty stomach as compared to a whole wheat toast. Those two would do dramatically different things because it takes your body a little bit more time to pull apart the blood sugar in that whole wheat toast. So also, if you eat your carbs with fat, if you eat your carbs with whole grains, if you eat your carbs with fiber, how do you know if you're getting enough fiber? Of course, all you can do there is track it. That fiber intake is really what it influences whether or not you're going to get a huge blood sugar spike or a not so big blood sugar spike. Okay? So my best bet is always sit down when you're eating and go, okay, what's the source of fiber in this meal? For most times, it's going to be your whole grain things or fiber-rich vegetables, right? Yeah, Faye's got a great question. So it says, over in France, they say apple cider vinegar helps to regulate blood sugar. Not sure if it works or not. So when it comes to that, there is a little bit of evidence suggesting that it does, that apple cider vinegar can influence your blood sugar and insulin sensitivity. How practical that is the next question. So if you are actually taking apple cider vinegar every single day, what does that translate to your insulin sensitivity? What does that actually do? We don't really know. We've seen in the study that this person is referring to, and I've seen it, they're really just referring to not necessarily like in a whole human, like how it influences, like sure it does in a whole human, but like in a small experimental study. So does that actually translate to big drastic effects in your body and that you can measure? It's not really known. So if you like drinking apple cider vinegar every day with a meal, cool, do it. And if you're doing it because it is shown that it does influence your blood sugar, then cool, do it. I don't know if that has measurable outcomes of insulin sensitivity and glucose control. It does in that study, but does that really truly mean it for you? And what does that mean in your day-to-day outcome? I don't know. It'd be worth it. It'd be worth it to try, Faye. Let me know. Yeah, so what I was saying about fiber, do you sit down and eat your meal every day and look at it and say, okay, what's my fiber intake here? What's my protein intake here? Do you answer those questions when you sit down to eat? Because I do. I sit down and go, okay, about how much fiber do I have on this plate? About how much protein do I have on my plate? And I do right now because I'm certainly more cognizant of what I'm eating, because I'm that person that I swing the pendulum certain ways where for a while there I wasn't really thinking about my food. I was just eating what I felt like. I was really eating intuitively. And I'm learning, so this is a really great time for me to like kind of chat with you about this. I'm learning that black and white is never the best way to think about things. For a while there, I was really big on, hey, intuitive eating, eat whatever your body wants, eat this and that. And that's true to some extent. But at the same time, if you start to fall into that mindset of, I'm going to eat whatever I want, I'm eating intuitively, I want a brownie, I'm going to eat a brownie. I want a cookie, I'm going to eat a cookie. You're going to eat the cookie, and you might eat the cookie every day. You might start to eat over your calorie maintenance goal, and you might start to gain weight. For me, I have. I put on 10 pounds. Do I like it? No. Do I want to change it? Yeah. So now I've been a bit more cognizant. So it's kind of like, pick your poison. I'm not actively tracking. I'm just monitoring protein and fiber right now with a little bit of a calorie goal. So, what else? My cat is next to me. What other questions do you have about balancing hormones? Ow, he's trying to climb up. Ow. What foods to benefit increase estrogen? Yeah, that's a great question, Cariel. So foods that are phytoestrogens, so soys, tend to have a kind of a mimic, a bioidentical mimic. So if you are experiencing changes in your estrogen and you want to consume more soy items, that's a great thing. So items that are soy, of course, what would that be? I don't know. I don't eat soy. But soy fortified things, soy milk. Certainly, there's nothing that you can eat that's going to increase your natural estrogen. So there's nothing that will support that other than, like I talked about before, estrogen is a fat soluble vitamin or hormone. So you need to be making sure you have enough protein to create that hormone, enough, excuse me, I got cat hair, enough fat to solubilize that hormone. Edamame, yeah, of course, edamame. Yeah, but you can eat soy because that is certainly bioidentical. That will mimic some of the effects that estrogen have. Now, just be careful, of course. There is that certain correlation between certain breast cancers that can be influenced by your soy intake. So just be careful with that. What else? What other questions do you have? I'm glad my internet is still working. Sheree, I'm going to tag you in that discussion I had about intermittent fasting. I had a whole Facebook Live about certain types of eating habits. Intermittent fasting was one of them. We chatted about that. I also have a post in the group about that I posted a while ago. So I can tag you in that. Balancing your hormones. Let me just kind of summarize it all again because I know some folks are kind of popping in and out of this feed. Balancing your hormones really is something that we can't do with food, but we can support our hormones. We have to understand that our hormones are going to start to fluctuate in midlife. You need to start to identify some of the things that could be a cause of them or like a sign that they're starting to fluctuate. For me, it was lots of anxiety. It was changes in body composition. It was generalized fatigue and anxiety and brain fog. And so that's what caused me to go get some hormone panels done. And the only way you know if things are starting to fluctuate and move in a way that's towards perimenopause or menopause is actually getting those hormones tested. And at different times, because we know that our bodies will fluctuate in the cycle. So if you still are having a menstrual cycle, then of course, you're going to know your hormones are different at different times in your cycle. So your doctor should know when is the best time to test you for those hormone panels to see how things are changing over time. But of course, the main thing that you can take away from this is make sure you're getting enough protein, make sure you're getting enough fiber. I gave you the 30 grams per day for fiber for recommendation. When it comes to protein, like I said, anywhere between taking your body weight in half, which is essentially your body weight in kilograms, and going from 1 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight is a great recommendation. And we can overcomplicate things. And to be honest with you, a lot of folks do. A lot of influencers, a lot of people on social media will overcomplicate things. I'm going to balance your hormones. Eat this, don't eat that. Sure, there's some merit to that, but if you're not willing to be super anal about your food, eat to your full prioritize protein, make sure you're getting a wide variety of fruits and vegetables is just that simple. And I so wish that that was easily translatable to actions, because it's not. I understand there's limitations to eating fresh fruits and vegetables every day. I understand you're not going to want to eat chicken breasts all the time. You're going to want to have pizza. You're going to want to have ice cream. I get that. But that's when the 80% rolls in. So when we talk about that, we say 80% of the time, I'm going to choose that good quality protein. I'm going to choose good vegetables, fruits, vegetables, fiber-rich things. 20% of the time, I'm going to have a glass of wine. 20% of the time, I'm going to have pizza. Otherwise, your life is going to be too restrictive if you start to obsess over your food. And really, your life is not meant to obsess over food. We're not going to talk about that. I've been there before. I've talked to you guys about that. What other questions do you have? Because I probably have another 5-10 minutes before I got to go. I got to go teach spin tonight. Anybody in the St. Louis area want to come do spin with me at 5:30? You're welcome to. I'm going to teach a spin class. And then I like all those other topics I have on the Facebook page that I posted, so I will do some more of those topics probably next week. I'll do one of them. What else? What else can I do for you guys? I really do enjoy having these conversations and these chats. If there's anything that I can do personally for you, don't hesitate to reach out, guys. This is what I'm here for. This is what I'm making my business with. So if there's anything that you're like, you know, I'm really curious what you do for your clients, Julie, please do reach out. Please give me a message. You know how to reach me. My phone is always open and available to you. So also keep on the lookout. I am starting some new things. If I can get my thumb out of my butt and start to create some content for this new idea I have, I'm going to be launching some new stuff soon. So keep an eye on that. I don't have anything else. Let me make sure I answered all the questions. What other questions do you guys have? If you don't have any questions, tell me what you're doing this week. How about that? Tell me what you're doing this week. Like I said, I'm doing a spin class tonight, and I have friends coming from this weekend. Okay. Cool. We just stare at each other. I'm just staring at myself. All right, you guys, have a great rest of your Wednesday. I'm going to pop off of here. I'm going to get ready for my spin class tonight, and we will chat again probably sometime next week. See you guys soon.